Radio Raumstation. 24 hours a day. Yeah.
Today with Mr. Kent Taylor. Hi Kent, welcome here in Radio Raumstation. Very happy we can speak about your music life. And we are starting right now with a fist in the eye. Tell us, how did you become a drummer?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to do this interview. I'm very flattered. Certainly not a famous person, so hopefully I'll find some things of interest in my life that, might be of value. How I came to the drums, basically, an old story my mom used to say was when my mother was a singer all her life, and that's all she ever did. She never had a regular job She was pregnant with me and doing gigs, these little jazz trio gigs, and she said by the time I got to 3 months old or whatever, every time she would play, and she would always be like right in front of the drummer, and she said she could feel me kicking around in there to the rhythm of the music. And so in some weird way, I was a drummer before I was actually born. So, of course, I've become other things now. I mean, I still play drums a lot. That's like my main instrument. But, I've gotten more into doing vocals, and I play keyboards by ear. And I really have enjoyed the songwriting and producing aspect of music a lot more in, later years. But that's where it started, was right from the womb. So that's where I've been.
Nice story. I think you have been in England for a while. Tell us, where did you grow up?
I grew up in several places, actually. My father was a chemical engineer, as well as musician himself. He played cornet and trumpet and flugelhorn, mostly jazz, well, actually all jazz stuff, either downbeat, like Miles Davis type jazz, or right to Dixieland. So, but because of his chemical engineer job, he was sometimes transferred, and so we would pack up and, move. So when I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and we left out of there because he was transferred to Odessa, Texas, probably when I was about 4 or 5 years old. So I don't hardly remember anything from my life, at that time when I was a little kid in St. Louis. But I remember a lot from Odessa, Texas. And even though Odessa, Texas was like, at that time, pretty much like a little dot in the middle of a desert, it still had a lot of musicians, and my parents used to have a lot. I mean, I just remember a lot of memories of being around music. And then we moved from Texas back to St. Louis again. And now, in between these trips, my mother is English, from Manchester, England. And so we've taken really long, extensive trips to England, like months at a time. Oftentimes I would go to school there, and then we would come back to St. Louis. And so it was we bounced around a lot that way. And also just bouncing around from different houses in the neighborhood. I've moved quite a lot in my lifetime.
What was the most crazy time when you were a young drummer? What kind of music did you admire, and did you do, and maybe with who?
Well, I came from a very jazz background through my parents, and they were really pretty strict not strict, but I mean, they were just very steeped in jazz music. And so rock and roll wasn't really welcome around the house that much, I mean, they just, it's not like I was punished or anything, but I mean, they just looked at me like, have you lost your mind? Why would you listen to that crap, And so I mean, I guess that's what makes rock music rock, right? It's, anything that disturbs your parents is good rock and roll. So it just so happened I got lucky when I came to move to California or to Long Beach, that I just stumbled across. Well, actually, somebody stumbled upon me when I was practicing one day, and it just happened to be one of the local musicians. And, it just happened to be the right local guy that introduced me to quite a few of the local guys that used to jam every weekend at parties. And, I mean, we're talking raging, sometimes 200 people at people's houses and just throw these huge parties. And it would always get broken up by the police, and then we'd just go across town and set back up again and play more, And then I remember also during that time is when I was up really late one night, like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, listening to the radio. I used to listen to KNAC radio, Mahavishnu Orchestra, The Dance of Maya. And I listened to this, and my mind was split in two. I listened to Billy Cobham playing drums. I mean, the whole thing, everything about that band was so it was like an explosion in my brain. I just couldn't believe it. And so it was really what I worshipped. Although, I didn't have anywhere close to the ability to play. I mean, Billy Cobham was just so insanely good for that period of time. I mean, he was like the only thing around that could play like that. I mean, every drummer, famous or unfamous, took a look at him and their jaws dropped down. I mean, he was just so powerful and fast and so precise. And so that really drove me. Billy Cobham was like one of my big mentors, mental mentors, that I kind of really liked his style. But also I loved like John Bonham, which is far more loose and unconventional, but still very dramatic playing. I loved it. So, those combination of styles between Billy Cobham and John Bonham and Phil Collins and, all kinds of just, great players, that's what formed me. I'm just kind of eclectic a little bit. And then, I started playing with, my main focus has always been original music. I've only played in a few top 40 bands, and it didn't last long because I just couldn't get behind playing those same songs every night and, Van Halen and, let's hear Freebird and all those, just these same songs over and over every night. And I just got really bored with that. I think I'd rather shoot myself. So, I mean, music has always been an art form of creation for me. That's what I want to do, and I still do it. I just enjoy it. I don't even get paid. I've never made a dime doing it. I just love it. It's just something that's a way for me to express myself, kind of like being a painter or anything else that's artsy, I suppose.
Sometime later, you build a studio, as far as I know.
A friend of mine, needed to invest in a business, and so I convinced him to build this recording studio, Phantom Recording Studios, and it was a big, epic chapter of my life. It took us almost a year and a half to build this place. It was a 24-track studio, and it had 3 rehearsal studios. And basically, I managed the place, and I used to engineer there as well. And we had like 3 engineers. There was me and another guy, Bob, and it was a couple 3 engineers. And then there would be also some people would bring their own engineers. That was probably my biggest learning experience, and that's what got me into the studio recording world more than ever. Because that was, what was really nice about that was watching all these different bands, all kinds of different genres of music, and anything from Mexican mariachi bands, Vietnamese music, of course, rock bands and jazz bands, and the guy, Graham Chapman, the guy that invented the Chapman stick, he did his first recordings of the Chapman stick at Phantom Recording Studios. I was the engineer for it. So it was really, a lot of, those were the 70s, so it was really cutting time, and in early 80s, it was cutting time in music, and so it was a huge experience to be able to be a fly on the wall or to be an engineer on a session and see other people's approaches to music and what works and what doesn't work. And, you see people who come in very organized. You see people who come in who don't know what the hell they're doing. So, that was a very huge experience for me.
Coming to a first music you did, we this time want to go from the most wild one to the most soft song. What is the wildest when you created it? Who was maybe involved? And is there any story connected?
Well, I think I've probably written a lot of crazy songs, so it's kind of hard to categorize it, some of them. But I've had some fun sessions doing crazy stuff, and I guess so that to me is crazier when it's crazy and it's just out of control and it's kind of like anarchistic, in some way. Then that's fun for me. So I can't even remember what year it was, probably like 1980, 81. I used to play with a guy named Larry Tovar, excellent guitar player. In fact, probably one of the best guitar players I think I've ever played with. I mean, as far as techniques, because he could switch genres in an instant. I mean, he could play, jazz standards or jazz fusion, or he could play rock or punk or country anything you throw at him, he would just adapt really, really well. And so that made him perfect for me because I'm all over the place genre-wise anyway. So, we did a lot of music together. And one of the songs we did was called Give Me Money. Give Me Money, I had put together all the tracks ahead of time and invited Larry to come down and play on it at Phantom Studios. So I told him, I said, look, this is a crazy, angry track against people who will do anything for money. And so that's what it's all about, this song. And I said, look, when it comes to the guitar solo, I just want you to go hog wild, go crazy. I just want basically just almost sound effect guitar. I want you to just scream. And like I said, Larry's a very accomplished guitar player. And he actually did this in one take. This is a one-take deal. He was like rolling around the studio and bouncing off the walls and hitting his guitar against he was just doing all this crazy stuff. And it sounded so good. I didn't plan on it being a first take, but there was just no way I was going to record over that. That solo was like, oh God, I got to have that. So we kept it. We were all in hysterics laughing. So while you're listening to this, imagine some crazy guitar player bouncing around the studio like a freaking lunatic. Incidentally, this was salvaged from an old cassette, so the recording isn't that great. I didn't ever plan on using this this particular recording in its condition as any kind of promotion, but this is just a little piece of my history.
Goodbye tomorrows I had before. Goodbye to anything that I stood for. 'Cause I got money better than before, and I'll stop at nothing to get some more. Give me money, write me in your will. Right, I said kill. My eyes are bloodshot.
See, I like it a lot. I'm jumping as well here. I want to tell you something. As I heard this song, sometimes the first take, and this is what I do very often, or let's say only, I just take the unheard song and sing. And later the lyrics come, or I have to write it, or I have to correct some things. But the idea is you get in the very first touch of a song, you don't know it, you just hear it and do something, is mainly, let's say, you cannot repeat it sometimes because it's so good that if you start to think, you can't get it anymore. But coming back to your music, you played a lot live, I think. What was one of your bands, let's say, or most important bands? Can you introduce that?
One of the main bands I was in was called the Tantrum Band, and we did a lot of live performances in Hollywood and things. And it was probably the closest I ever got to being signed with a record label. And of course, these are the days when that was actually a remote possibility to get signed. But that also added a lot of pressure on that band, and we really tried hard. I mean, we really did. We were together for like 4 years, and we were kind of an unusual band. I mean, we were unusual looking. Let's put it that way. When we walked on stage, because it was 3 black guys on the front row, as two on guitar and 1 on bass. The bass player was the lead singer. And then you got this skinny white dude on drums. I mean, it was just totally misplaced visually. And so when we walked out on stage, I mean, people, that time, they thought we were like Parliament Funkadelic or Earth, Wind, and Fire or something, And then we would proceed to saw their heads off. And we rehearsed like nonstop. I mean, if we weren't gigging, we were rehearsing. And we had a really heavy rehearsal schedule. So we were basically very tight. Probably the most professional band I was actually in was the Tantrum Band. After that, I just kind of, I became disillusioned with playing live performances, at least as far as my mainstay, as far as my main objective in music. And I could already see where it was going. There was a lot of people just cutting each other's throats to get a gig. And they were basically playing for nothing. In fact, the clubs caught on to this. They knew that the musicians needed those clubs to promote themselves and feed their egos. So bands were forced to actually buy tickets to their own concerts and then go out there and sell them for more money. And so the club owners had it made. They were making money hand over fist off the bar. And they got these kids putting flyers all over the place to promote their band, as well as selling tickets for them for free. So, I mean, how much better does it get than that? A lot of those club owners are probably in a waiting room in hell right now listening to endless elevator music. I hope.
Did you meet some famous stars or played for well-known musicians during that time?
You almost can't have played anywhere in Southern California during the 70s and 80s and not at least bumped elbows with somebody famous. And I've interacted with a lot of people, met some really famous people. Robin Trower once signed his album over to us. We used to gig with Van Halen at Gazzarri's. I mean, Van Halen back in those days was like the house band at Gazzarri's. I can remember being, packing up our equipment behind Gazzarri's and smoking a joint with Eddie Van Halen. I also, one of my closest friends in high school, in fact, most of my guitar playing friends taught her to play, but that was Lita Ford. Lita and I are still good friends to this day. I don't talk to her that often. She's really busy. And she's got a family and everything too. So, but we're really good buds, and we used to hang around each other a lot. And in fact, I was her first drummer. Really, I helped her prepare her record, and I did the drums for it for her to play in the Runaways. So and once she joined the Runaways, we lost contact because she became a rock star. I mean, full on. She was they were laying down in front of their limo in Germany. So you might have heard of them, or heard of Lita. She's now doing her own thing away from the Runaways. I think the Runaways only lasted maybe a couple, 3 years. But they were a huge success in Japan and Germany and Europe. Not so big in the U.S., but they did have a few hits here. And so, and Lita was just, especially back then, she was just a very lovely person. Just fun, and we had a lot of laughs together. And so, other than that, I mean, like I said, Van Halen, we played with a band called Quiet Riot with Kevin DuBrow. We played with Devo. They were like they were like really the premier techno pop band. And funny enough, we saw them in Hollywood, and we thought they were great. And we ended up doing a gig with them like the following week at a place called what was it called? The Golden West Ballroom, which was the biggest ballroom in Southern California. It actually held like 2,000 people, huge dance floor. And Devo actually opened up for us. And but they were. And we saw them in Hollywood. They went over great because the Hollywood crowd is much different universe than in Orange County where this ballroom was, but the Golden West Ballroom. And so when they opened up for us, I mean, I don't know. I think the Orange County people just didn't get it, and they booed them off the stage and threw stuff at them. And I really felt bad for the guys. And we had that night. I was with the Tantrum Band then, and so we had to play like an extra set because they got booed off so early. And so I think we ended up filling our set with like Jimi Hendrix songs and stuff because we only had about an hour show of original material at the time. And but I remember Mark Mothersbaugh behind stage going, "Okay, make them dance, boys." I felt bad for him, but as history shows, I mean, it was only maybe 6 or 8 weeks later that Devo got signed by Brian Eno. And they went on to make, techno pop history, really. I mean, they were a big hit in the United States.
When you compose, Kent, how do you compose as a drummer? Let's say basic, you are a drummer. How is the process? And can you maybe introduce one of your earliest songs you made?
It's difficult to be a songwriter as a drummer, especially if that's all you play. And so basically it forced me to play other instruments. I had, started pegging around on the keyboard, which is basically the easiest one for me to manipulate and try to get my ideas across. I mean, just basic keys and stuff. I don't read music or anything like that. I'm totally self-taught by ear, and I'm no keyboard player, essentially. I just use that as my writing instrument. But before that, I was lucky enough to have people patiently sit and listen to me try to hum out something and then try to emulate a guitar sound to get them to get my ideas across. That usually didn't go over too well because drummers essentially, especially at that time, I guess, I mean, we just weren't seen as songwriters. There weren't very many out there that were famous. Maybe Phil Collins later down the line or, but not too many drummers that were known songwriters. And, but I always had music in my head. It just was nonstop. It's still to this day. I mean, I wake up hearing it, and it keeps me up at night. I've always seemed to have, a natural ability to harmonize. I think I started hearing that way early on. When I was a little kid, I would hear harmonies that weren't there, in songs. And I would sing in harmonies just naturally. It was just something I just did. I don't know if I was emulating maybe other people harmonizing that I'd seen before, but it's just something I've always done. And I feel lucky in that way. I've never, I think if I would have been a trained musician, I might have actually been deemed with perfect pitch. But since I don't really sight sing or know, or been trained in music, I don't think I'll ever know. But I can usually hone in on a pitch pretty well.
Speaking about concerts, what was your most important one?
I don't know that I ever did any real, what I would consider an important concert. we did some funny ones, a couple of interesting ones. They had a show that became really popular in America called The Gong Show. And we were one of the first bands to ever audition for The Gong Show. And we didn't get picked, of course, because we had, when they put the advertisements out, we didn't really know what they were looking for. And so when we went down there, it was basically us in this huge line with clowns and little girls dancing troops and, I mean, just you name it. Any kind of bizarre act that you can think of was in line. And so we kind of knew we were out of place there. But what was really funny is we'd stand out in the hall and waiting for these other bands, and we could, you could see across because they would film them, and you had like 5 minutes. I mean, and they wouldn't let you go over because they had so many people auditioning, and so we literally had to just drag in our equipment in there. We had it all set up out in the hallway, and we just to slide it in, go, and just play this tune. And I was playing in a band called the Jamie Williams Exhibition, and basically it was kind of like a Spinal Tap situation. I mean, the guitar player I was with, Jamie Williams, which he was the guy writing all the music at the time, and his thing was to have his amp at 11. I mean, he was one of those guys. It always had to blast no matter what. And we were just in this little television studio. It was in Hollywood, but it was all linoleum tile. And it was just, all white and just hard surfaces. And there was these, 4 judges that sat there, and they recorded us as we went on and videoed us, which was really kind of like novel in those days to get an actual real video recording of yourself. Back then, everybody carried those big giant things that looked like a boom box, and that was like the size of your videos back then. And so we went in there, and I think it just blew everybody away because we were so freaking loud. I mean, the judge's hair went back, but I think they got a kick out of us, and they liked the music, I think, but they just knew that this wasn't going to be for us. But what I thought was really kind of cool was after we were done, they actually let us watch our video, which they didn't do for anybody else. I mean, it was just like this. It was a cattle call. They just pushed you through and off to the next guy. So, I mean, at least we got that courtesy out of it, which was kind of fun. Other than that, I mean, we played for Long Beach City College, which was actually televised a while back. Gosh, I'm saying probably that's got to be like 77, I think. We played that as the Tantrum Band. And we also played the Starwood, which I thought was an excellent venue in L.A. It was a really big place. It's kind of famous for all the wrong reasons. The guy that owned the place was involved with the Wonderland murders. They actually did a movie about it with Val Kilmer called The Wonderland Murders. So if you ever watched that. But David Knight, who owned the Starwood, which was one of the biggest clubs in L.A. for rock music at the time. Great stage, I mean, boy, this place was awesome. It was small, but I mean, it maybe had like, I don't know, 400 or 500 people, I guess. But the stage was just awesome. The lighting was real professional. The PA system was off the hook. I mean, it was just great. So we always enjoyed playing there. But the first time we played, we promoted the gig so much. We literally had them wrapped around the block. And the night before, I guess, Rick Derringer had played there the night before us. And so when we showed up to the gig, they were already wrapped around the block, and we're like, wow, we got a good turnout, And we get up to the guy at the security guy that let us in. He goes, who are you guys? He goes, Rick Derringer didn't even have this kind of a crowd last night. So I thought that was kind of funny. And it was a particularly good night. I mean, we were rock stars that night, I think.
What a feeling. Tell us the most well-known song you ever wrote. Which one is it?
I had a song I wrote called Living in Limbo. In fact, it was my very first post on Vandalism. This song went through so many different genre changes and, I mean, just tempo changes, key changes. I mean, it just morphed in all different directions. And I finally settled on kind of almost like a folksy, finger-picking type, thing, more bluesy approach to it. But I mean, I had full-on rock versions that were real hard rock versions of it that were still cool. It's just, I don't know, it was one of those songs I never got satisfied with. And so my first post, I did that. And actually my first collaboration, first or second collaboration, was with Ted Van Wagner, and that was the song that we did together. I had already done the original one, but I thought, after I heard Ted, I just loved his playing so much, and his slide work was just incredible. And I thought, man, how great would it be to have this guy play on my tune, doing a slide, because it would have been totally appropriate, for the style of song. So I approached Ted, and he was very cordial, and he said, absolutely. And so we did the song together, and I think it's the best version I ever came up with it. And a lot of people know me from this song. And it's really my rant about, just trying so hard in life and just remaining in this place of just never really failing, but never really succeeding. You're just trudging along, and you never really quite, grasp the brass ring. And it was a song of frustration, and I think a lot of people related to it. So anyway, here's the version I did with Ted. It was amongst one of my very first posts, and I thought Ted did a great job on it. So this is Ted Van Wagner. Everything else is me, all the vocals and whatever. And it's a fun tune. Take a listen.
Been working all these years and I still ain't got that much. I cried a lot of tears and no one seems that touched. I've done everything I can to sell my soul. Won't somebody tell me how to make it in this world? All these years I tried to be someone. I've persevered, living in limbo. Living in limbo. I had a lot of love that turned out to be lust. People play some dirty tricks if you show them too much trust. Thought love would find you no matter where you are. Well, yes, I've been so close, but yet I've been so far. All these years just trying to love someone. But love is fear when you're living in limbo. Living in limbo. Born of satisfaction, hiding my success, hanging in the balance with love and happiness. Somewhere in the middle of love and pain is the everyday existence that's driving me insane. Must I remain living in limbo? So much to do, so much to see. Must I be lost in mediocrity? Am I cynical? Am I a malcontent? Is it wrong to want to live my life before my time is spent? All these years just trying to amount to something. So many years living in limbo. Living in limbo.
song. I know you disdance politicians. Why? Did you as well transport these mood into your songs?
Politicians have found a way to hack away at all the rules in their favor to make sure that, they take care of these big corporations that are buying their way into the presidency. And so really now it's all about giant corporate owners of our politicians. They've sold us out as much as they can sell us out. And you're seeing the results of that now in the United States. I mean, especially today as I'm doing this interview, the place is on fire. Systemic racism. Things are really just not doing too good for the United States, especially amidst a pandemic that was, a very pathetic response to the pandemic that's cost, hundreds, if not thousands, of lives. And it's just such a clown show. So to make it a little quicker, my problem is not with anybody specific other than Donald Trump, which I just think he's a dick. But anyway, my biggest problem is with the system. It needs to be fixed very badly. And I'm a little too old to get into the game to do anything. So all I can do is write songs and piss and moan about it. So I wrote this song called Fuck the System, Save the World, and I invited my really good friend Ray Loftus, who plays guitar on it. And he was actually local where I was living at the time when I put the song together, and he was in Long Beach. So he came in studio and played it there with me. And then I played the song for my other really good friend that we've known and I've visited several times now in England, Chris Barrie, who's in Hastings. I've met him through Vandalism. He's an insane, jazz fusion guitar player, for those of you who don't know him. And although this tune really isn't his preferred genre, he just appreciated the message so much, he wanted to get in on the fun. And he did a tremendous job as well. I mean, both Ray and Chris just knocked it out of the park, playing-wise. And so this was a really fun tune, and it was basically my vitriol, not only against politicians, but bankers, religion, because I'm a staunch atheist, and just, anybody who pisses me off. So anyway, here's Fuck the System, Save the World.
Fuck everything you know, fuck all that you believe. Fuck your opinions that you got from the TV. And fuck the fucking bankers who run the fucking show. They're your fucking daddies now, and don't you fucking know? Fuck the system, save the world. Fuck the system, save the world. Fuck the system, save the world. Fuck the system. Fuck the Christians. Fuck the Jews. Fuck the Muslims. Fuck the Buddhists and Hindus. Fuck religions and the fools they control. Don't need your fucking magic word to save my fucking soul. Fuck the system. Save the world. Fuck the system. Save the world. Fuck the system. Save the world. Fuck the system. I'm sick of this shit. 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 Fuck the saints. Fuck the sinners. Fuck the losers. Fuck the winners. Fuck the ones down on their luck. Fuck your story, 'cause I don't give a fuck. Fuck the system! Save the world! the system, save the world. Up the system, save the world. Up the system.
Respect. If you don't like what I fucking say or the fucking words I choose, all I can say is fuck you too.
Very nice song, I like it. But let us hear some emotional song you wrote. Because we have seen these facets now and want to see your smooth parts.
It'd have to be a song called Slow Motion. I don't have copies of the original tracks that we did, and I only have really terrible recordings of the final mix that we did, and it was at somebody's little studio, and I was unhappy with the whole sound of everything. But I mean, the guitar player who plays on it is like my closest friend. In fact, one of the first people I ever wrote music with. His name is Mark Seawright. I knew him in high school. He's a great big black guy who was like the star quarterback of our high school, and I was like the skinny little white kid, and somehow we became best friends, and we were just, an odd pair. Let me tell you. And but we were like frick and frack. Wherever he was, I was, and we wrote a lot of music together, and we still do. I mean, he lives in Boston now, and but we definitely keep in touch. And he's come out to visit me in California, and hopefully he'll be coming out to visit me in Oregon, and we can do some more tracks, of which we still have a bunch of unfinished things. That's on me. I'm supposed to be writing lyrics and things like that. The story behind it is basically, it's an imaginary love story. It's the kind of stuff you see in movies where, it's the slow motion running up the beach and all that kind of stuff. I just tried to put that into words, and slow motion always seems to come in when you watch the movies, the love scene, the slow motion. And so I wanted to express that. Why is it that we feel it's slow motion? We're lost in this ecstasy when we have love for somebody, and especially if we're making love to them, you kind of lose track of time, and it does seem kind of a slow motion, almost a heroin-like high that you have. And so anyway, that's what this was all about. That's the story behind this. So slow motion. Mark and I did this song, and this is, as far as the best we could do. We tried to replicate exactly the way that we played it back in 1985. This is the newest version, and luckily I had better recording capabilities now that there's Cubase and Pro Tools and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely afforded us a much better sound than I originally got. And so this is the way that the song was supposed to sound, and it does have a very 80s feel or 80s sound to it. But it's, I would say, probably my most emotional song. So anyway, here's Slow Motion with Mark Seawright on guitar and me on everything else.
There's a lady in the crowd. She calls out to me without making a sound. She affects me like a magic potion. She makes me feel like I'm in slow motion. Total stranger. passion play. Just one look took my heart away. She makes love seem like an ocean. She makes me feel like I'm in slow motion. Maybe I'm dreaming, and it seems so real. The only words that describe just how I feel. It's slow motion.
Really beautiful song. You are a strong networker and like to play with a lot of musicians, I know. That's why you are on Fanda. Can you introduce us some of your collabos and let us know what you like most as concerns doing collabos?
Everybody I've met on Vandalism, they just, live, eat, and breathe music. That's like their whole life. And that's my whole life too. So I really got along great with pretty much everybody on Vandalism, pretty much. And and as a result of that, when I first got on, I don't think it was really meant to be like a collaboration site. There wasn't a lot of that going on when I first, hopped on there. I don't think people really considered it. It was just basically a place to show your wares and, hear some feedback from your peers or your other musicians. But I mean, I immediately latched on. I thought, well, geez, here's all these people. They all have little studios or whatever that they're doing their stuff in. I'm going to make some, requests. And so, I mean, since then, I've collaborated with so many different people. It's almost unfair to ask me to play only one song from all those collaborations because it's, it's hard to pick. It really is. I've done some great stuff, and it was great because of the people I did it with. Believe me. But I would say one that comes to mind, one person that really sticks out in my mind is just being one of the kindest people and very talented, and it would be Annemiek. Yeah, Annemiek Beeks, who lives in Breda, Netherlands. And we got together on a song, and I don't know, we've just hit it ever since. We got along great. And I went over to visit my mom in Manchester. And while I was over there, I wanted to go to Amsterdam for recreational purposes, let's say. And but I knew Annemiek was close by there. I didn't know where Breda was at the time, and so I said, "Hey, Annemiek, I let her know. I'm going to Amsterdam. If you're anywhere nearby there, I'm going to be there for a couple of days, and if you want to meet up, Well, she gave me the full invite. She's like, "Oh no." She goes, "You're coming here. You can stay with me. I'm going to make you spaghetti. I'm going to, and she was just the greatest host ever. Showed me all around the little town Breda, and we got to be really good friends. It was something I heard that she did, and I think originally Jay was going to sing on it, and I stole it from him. So Jay's a great singer, he really is. But I really wanted to do this song, and I had just gotten back from visiting Annemiek in Breda, and I was really excited about the trip, and I really wanted to express how much I appreciated it and had a great time. And so I wanted to use this song that she had, unbeknownst to her, that I was going to write the song about her. And so I asked, hey, I really love this tune, can I sing on it? And so I think she'd already told Jay, and she said, hey, Jay, Kent really wants to do this song, blah, blah, blah. And of course, Jay graciously said, no problem. And so I ended up working with it, and I pulled in my buddy Ray Loftus to play guitar on it. Annemiek's two best friends and bandmates in Breda are incredible musicians, a bass player named Carl Williman and a guitar player and fantastic drummer named Jan van Geldering. Those two and Annemiek are a fabulous trio. They really are. And they just have so much fun together. It's fun just to sit on the sidelines and watch them play together because they're like kids. They just enjoy themselves, which is the way music should be played, in my opinion. But anyway, Carl had played on this, but I guess Jan couldn't make it down to do the tracks. He was really busy. So I got my friend Ray to do the guitar on it. And then I put the song together. It's called You Got a Friend in Me. And that's my message to Annemiek. She's always got a friend in me. And I just love the music we do together. And hopefully we're going to be working on a new one really soon. We'll see what happens. But anyway, this is called You Got a Friend in Me.
brilliant vocals, Kent. I'm really impressed. Never heard you this good singing. As we love impro, would it be possible for you to throw out a 30 seconds improvisation out of your drums? Do you like odd meters? And if so, can you do a nice 7/8 or change to some other 5/4 or so?
Well, sure. I'll tell you what I'll do. Rather than try to finesse you with some kind of fancy drum rhythm, 7/8, 5/4, or something like that, one of the things that I can do that aren't something that a lot of drummers have the advantage of is that I play electronic drums. I play very expensive, high-quality sounding electronic drums. It's the Roland TD-30. So one advantage to the electronic drums is that they're MIDI, so I can trigger anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a drum. I can trigger, sound bites of any kind or do anything like that. So I've been asked to do some background tracks for a friend of mine who's putting together some football videos for his son, just clips of his highlights. And so I was thinking, okay, well, I'll just do like a drum thing, because that's very conducive with sports. And so this is kind of like some of my ideas, and I started. I'm not really finished with it, so for right now we'll just call it Steve's football music, okay? And you can just take a listen.
You gave us this listen. I would like to know, Kent, from all the music places and cities all over the world, which one had been the most exciting for you? Do you have any relationship with a city?
I loved London. I loved London. That was a very exciting place for me. But unfortunately, every time I've been there, I've not been able to do any kind of jamming or any kind of music thing. So the only city that really strikes to me as being exciting for me as far as my music career would be Los Angeles.
I never had been there, the luck to be there. Who knows? Which of your songs is nearest to this city and why? Can you introduce this and we will play the song?
The heart of that city there's a lot of pain there, and a lot of, I don't know, it's really, you can feel the vibe of L.A. It's different than New York or London. There's a lot of people out here that they came out pursuing their hopes and dreams, and they ended up working some day job that they hated for the rest of their lives. And I didn't come out here with the hopes of fulfilling my dreams, but I did end up working a day job for the rest of my frickin' life that I hated. So, but I can relate, I can see all these people that were disenfranchised from this life that they'd hoped to get. And I wrote a song called Goodnight, L.A., and this song is about a homeless guy overlooking the city and thinking about his life and thinking about the city and just how much it takes a little piece of you just living there. And so this is my song called Goodnight, L.A. The guitarist on here is Ray Loftus, again, one of my good friends, excellent guitar player. And I originally wrote this song differently. Another one of my songs that's gone through many transformations. But Ray came in one day, and I was playing the song back, and he was kind of getting the feel of it. And he started playing this Spanish-style guitar. And at first I didn't like it. But then, you know, Los Angeles, us being so close to Mexico, and actually California at one time being part of Mexico, there's a heritage here, and that Spanish style, or Mexican music is very prevalent in the area. And so as he played it, I started to like it more and more, and I thought, that's really appropriate for Los Angeles, is that heritage. And so we put it together, and he laid the track, and I fell in love with it, and it's stayed like this ever since. So here is Goodnight, L.A. with Ray Loftus on guitar and me on everything else.
I can taste the sun melting in the sea. I can hear the night falling down on me. I can feel the love and I can smell the fear. Lives that once stood still change quickly. Goodnight, LA, where all the lost angels play. Goodnight, LA, tomorrow's not another day. Goodnight, LA, you redefine relativity. Goodnight, LA, you managed to
Great song, Kent. I am really a fan now of your own music, let's say. I mainly know you from the collabos and Fanda where you do the drums, but this is stunning, I think. Tell us a little bit about your activities right now. How much time you spend to do music and what are your projects? Is there maybe any not ready song? You have a small sneak preview for us? What do you think? What is, let's say, mattering your mind? As a last question, because we have to close the interview. It's already long. So please let us know what you are doing.
Well, I recently retired from my nightmarish day job and moved out of California, finally. And I'm up in Oregon now on the coast. It's very, very beautiful here. I love it. Different climate. And but I don't know anybody. I mean, we've been here 2 years, and I mean, I maybe know a couple of the neighbors. So I spend really a lot of time alone. I've built a nice little studio here. It's a little smaller than the one I had before, but that's fine because it's only me. And I'm just basically, I walk through the woods and enjoy the fresh air and watch the trees grow. And I write music. Just, you know, actually the music I'm writing now is probably more for my own enjoyment than anything, than ever before. And I enjoy it that much more. I mean, there's no money involved. There's no relationships involved. There's nobody I have to please. You know, there's no, oh, that's not good enough. I just do what the hell I want, and it's great. And so I can be more creative. I don't have nothing to handicap my ideas. And so I can take chances and have fun because there's nothing at risk, really. I'm totally free. So that's what I'm doing. I'm working on a project right now that's to do with the pandemic. The song is called "The End of the World Was Yesterday." And a lot of people laugh when I say that. But anyway, it's supposed to be a reminder to people. It's supposed to get everybody on the same page and have them take a look at our current situation and how a lot of warnings about the pandemic were ignored by the leaders that are supposed to protect us. And they failed to do that, many of them, especially ours. It was a pathetic response here. Well, we've also been ignoring climate change. Most of the citizenry, most of the people, they know climate change. They see it. They try to do their best. I think most people I know, they try to conserve as much as they can. They're doing what they can. But when they see their leaders doing nothing and not even caring, in fact, even adding to the problem like Trump does, it's really, it's very discouraging. But what I'm trying to point out here is if you ignore climate change, there's no vaccine. No, none. We can hope for vaccine for coronavirus someday, maybe. But when it comes to climate change, once we reach that point of no return, we're all going to be living in hell if we live at all, if we survive. I'll be gone by then, hopefully. I don't know. At the rate it's going, it may actually hit while I'm alive. But the next generation is definitely going to feel some horrible, horrible effects of climate change. And it's not like there's going to be a vaccine for it. There's not going to be any cure for it. It's going to be thousands of years for this planet to heal itself. And one of the requirements for it to heal itself is that we're all dead. Because we are the problem. We don't respect this world and this planet we live on. We just think it's something that we can cut up and sell for profit. And it's just disgusting. The world has forgotten our connection with the planet and with each other. And so that's what this song is about in a roundabout way. This is only probably one of a million pandemic songs, I suppose. But this is my version, and it's heartfelt, and it's actually a very different genre than I normally play in. So here's a little taste of it. It's not finished. I haven't put drums or anything like that on it. The Annemiek Beeks will be playing the keyboards on it, and I'm hoping to get Chris Barrie to play some guitar on there. But we'll see. It's not really his kind of genre, so I'm hoping that he'll honor me with some playing. But anyway, here's a little taste.
The end of the world was yesterday. Now we can start again. I didn't like the old one anyway. There was too much there to mend. But don't be sad, don't you shed a tear. We can make a new world without fear.
Very promising. I hope we can hear it when it's ready. Thank you so much, Kent. We hope you had a good time with us. And we learned a lot about your music and life. Now have a good time, and until soon, hopefully, and rock on.
Melanie, thank you once again for inviting me to do this interview. I was very honored by the whole proposition.
Thank you.
And thanks to anybody out there listening to my life this far, if you haven't gotten depressed and shot yourself. But anyway, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll be touching bases. You and I have done some collaborations as well with Melvin Donovan, the sweetheart of Vandalism, Melvin, one of the nicest guys I know, and a very passionate songwriter. But anyway, we'll see you all in the funny papers, I guess. Bye-bye.
My name is Melanie Colley.
Radio Raumstation. Original music 24 hours a day. Yeah.